All right. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the FreeStyle Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Ting, and today I have an amazing individual. He's one of my good friends that I can't wait to introduce to you guys. He is Paul Tran, and he is an incredible entrepreneur who is the master of franchising and franchises in general, not just as a consultant who has helped, hundreds and thousands of people, but also a franchisee himself and owns a chain of halal guys down in Southern California. He's also the founder of Crypto Badger Clan NFT project and the host of the Badger Clan Show podcast. Welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. It's been a while, right?
It has. Thank you so much for being on. But today, dude, we're gonna be covering a lot in this episode, including how you got started in business, the food industry, franchising, and we're also gonna dive a little bit into NFTs. Not gonna go super technical, but we're gonna talk a little bit about that too, because I know that's a more recent venture of yours. But before we dive into all of those topics, what is your background? How did you find yourself even starting in a food?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me here, dude. I'm a big fan of you and your podcast. I know that you work really hard all day, and then your passion, like it's like a labor of love at night when you talk to folks in hopes of extracting inspiration to share with others. You're not just learning to better yourself, but you hit record and you make sure other people can benefit from it too. So I just want to make sure that gets in there.
Thank
Um,
you.
but
I
as
appreciate
far
that.
as food, oh no, I thank you, dude. But as far as food, I laugh when people ask me how did I get into food or how did you become like an expert in the space. I don't feel like I'm an expert. I always feel like there's always something new and I'm always learning. And that's the right mindset to have. And then the second thing is, as far as food, I got into the food business by accident. And I tend to notice that all the most successful people that I look up to actually stumble upon their callings by accident. So hopefully that means I'm on the right track. But back when I was in college, there was a restaurant here in Southern California that was just killing it, like with nonstop lines. Are you familiar with Boiling Crab?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I've heard of it.
yeah. So they were the first to Southern California that served crawfish, from Louisiana, and they were the only game in town. They had nonstop lines. They were always 2 3 hour waits. Doesn't matter if it's like Taco Tuesday or knee deep on Saturday. It was always so busy. And one day I was just having lunch with a couple of my childhood friends, and we were just eating it. And we were just college kids blowing our student loan money there. And one of my buddies, who is a chef, a cook by hobby, not by trade, he's just like, man, I can make this taste better. I said, bullshit. And he says, no, I can truly taste it better. Like I promise you. And I said, well, if you really can make it that good, then let's like raise some money and let's open a restaurant. And he pretty much went to his kitchen at his parents' house, made a couple of we probably made like 20 batches before he proved me wrong. I proved them right for the first 19. Did this recipe that was incredible. And we're just like, holy cow, this is so good. And like our thought process was, if we created a restaurant where we just served the people who weren't willing to wait for 2 hours, I think there's enough customers to make a good business. And so we raised a little bit of money. We searched around for some real estate. We found some old noodle house in the Little Saigon area. And funny story on that, the owners apparently went to the liquor store in that same center, bought a lottery ticket, and won the $55 million lottery. So they just bailed out on
Oh,
it.
oh,
They're like, screw
wow.
this. I'm never one. They just left the restaurant there with all the kitchen equipment, hoods, grills, everything. So it was a blessing for us. And so we put a little money together to renovate it. We renovated it ourselves, actually. And we opened shop. There's a lot of like stupid mistakes and a lot of silly stuff, but I want to keep this question focused because I tend to talk on. So I'll end it there. That's how I got into business.
That's so cool. Like that's so crazy to me that like, an idea sparked from seeing a problem or just not even like a huge problem, right? Just a wait, like an inconvenience. And then your friend being a home cook, I can kind of relate to him because, I actually just got into the space myself. And it's kind of that same process where I'm like, hey,
Then you can't say that you're a home cook anymore.
yeah, I know. It's like, hey, like I'm a home cook, but I can make a lot of this stuff better. And then, now I'm in that same sort of process as your friend was and as you guys were back then, which is super awesome because it's relatable. But it's that I feel like the stars kind of align too in some way where the the owners of that shop just so happened to win it big, where they didn't, they just left everything. That is like the prime location for a restaurant too, because you don't have to install a grease trap like the hood or anything like that, and
Yeah.
you save a lot of money up front on bringing this to life. So what were, I know you hinted at it a little bit, but what were some of those early mistakes that you learned that helped you to grow into the entrepreneur you are today?
Ooh, how much time you got, buddy?
Oh, we got a lot of time.
Well, it's funny. I think everything that you learn along the way or experience kind of informs your insights later on that make you more valuable. This experience has actually made me a much better franchise advisor. But as far as mistakes go, for one thing, we for one thing, we ordered crawfish from Louisiana. Oh, sorry. When it was time for us to start ordering inventory for our store, we called them in August, and we called our crawfish supplier. We were able to do a lot of stock. We actually went inside the dumpster of like boiling crab, and we found out where all the suppliers are. But anyways,
Resourcefulness.
we called the supplier. We're like, hey, we're a new restaurant in town. We want to help you double your business by placing an order for food for crawfish. And the guy just laughed at me and he scoffed. He's like, what do you mean? Why are you ordering? And I said, well, I'm about to open up shop. And they're like, it's not crawfish season right now. And I was like, what do you mean? Crawfish has a season? And so
Oh no.
so it's those little things that are supposed to be like you should have figured that out. But for years, boiling crab always closed for a few months out of the year. It never occurred to me that I thought they just went on vacation or something. It didn't occur to me that they stopped because it was out of season. So we were already paying rent. We were kind of desperate and also kind of antsy. What we did was we decided to open anyway without crawfish. What we did was we served shrimp, clams, Dungeness crabs, and other things instead. And the most amazing blessing happened because whereas we thought that we were going to just serve the people unwilling to wait in line at boiling crab, everyone that was craving boiling crab during that time went to our store. So we were able to capture everyone and we made a much better first impression. And our store was just nonstop busy ever since. So that was really cool. They got to experience our seasoning and our recipe during a time when like our competitors weren't looking and weren't available to them. So that was a blessing in disguise. So that was a good mistake. The other bunch of mistakes include just, we've never opened a restaurant in our lives. We thought it was easy, and we just learned as we went. And so the reason why I said earlier that like all these mistakes makes me a better franchise person is because I see the value now of buying a franchise. Like if you pay a franchise fee to pay for all the mistakes that the franchisor has made, uh, and you have a template for success, like why wouldn't you? Because I probably made like over 100, maybe $200,000 worth of mistakes, just poor hiring, inefficiencies, distribution like inventory mistakes. Like there's just so many. But yeah, again, we can probably make 2, 3, 4, 5 podcast episodes out of this, but I'll stop there.
We could definitely talk for as long as, like, I mean, a good amount of hours for a good amount of podcast episodes on like all different kinds of topics. But I
Right.
love the fact that you guys turn what was seemingly a devastating situation where your whole idea was built around being a crawfish boil to kind of be there while the other restaurant, or while Boiling Crab was busy with 2-3 hour wait times. But you took that and you basically went with it anyways, which is something that I admire a lot. Is like, figuring out the solution despite that situation, the negative, I use it in quotations, but negative situation, and then turning it into a positive, just unknowingly because you took the action to do so.
Action is, I say action trumps experience or knowledge. I mean, the way you regurgitated back to me sounds amazing. I sound like amazing person, but I have to tell you, like, we truly did not know what the hell we were doing. And had we known how difficult it was, or that there was a season for crawfish, we wouldn't have taken any action at all. Yeah, action trumps knowledge. So
That's interesting. So it sounds like some level of ignorance is needed to get started. And then afterwards, it goes into how much determination you have to make whatever you started work.
yeah, and I will argue that to this day I still claim ignorance, and to everything I do. To be honest, like, I've been doing franchise development work for, like, for over a decade. Uh, I've been fortunate to, like, do some really cool things worldwide and hit massive milestones, but it's all because I truly didn't know what the hell I was doing, and so it always forced me to just look to higher knowledge, like my mentors and books and resources, because if you already think you know everything, you don't look to those better things that you didn't realize you don't know, or if there's a better way, so yeah, ignorance is power.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's like, to a degree, right? So it's like, to a degree that ignorance is power, because then you have to also consider the ego side of things, and making sure that your ego is balanced so that you won't be opposed to receiving new information when it comes in. But you talked a lot about, you're the master of franchising. You talked a lot about franchising, right? How did you go from this one restaurant into becoming the franchisor or franchisee that you are today?
Yeah, again, I guess my life is full of accidents, dude. Uh, so by the second year of our business, everybody could see that we were doing really well, and there were a lot of customers who reached out to me and asked, like, "Hey, are you guys franchising? I'd love to buy a franchise." And I knew that Boiling Crab wasn't franchising, and for me, it just sounded really exciting to know that, the only time I heard franchising was like McDonald's and Subway with their
Yeah.
thousands of stores, and so I responded back, like, I don't really, we're not franchising because I really don't know how that works. So that actually set me on a path to finding out how to franchise a restaurant. So I looked on Google, and I asked a bunch of people. I actually stumbled upon a company based in DC, but also had an office in Newport Beach. And they specialized in turning small mom and pop shops into franchises. And that company was FranceSmart. And I met up with them because I actually wanted to see if they wanted to franchise my concept. And after talking with them for about an hour, they actually told me, they're like, "I don't think your concept's ready yet, and here's why, blah, blah, blah." But they said that, we enjoyed talking with you, and we wanted to know. They actually had an ulterior motive for following up with me. They're like, "Are you running the business, like, passively or actively?" And they're like, "Oh, we put some really good managers in place now." Like, "Well, we're growing our office here. Would you like to learn how to franchise? And would you like a job?" And
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
"Yeah, I would." And so I took the job, and I ended up being their director of franchise development. So my job was to help, small brands. It was more like a sales job. I was just, like, reaching out to restaurant operators of other brands like Subway, KFC, and so on and so forth. And my job was to pretty much pitch them on buying another franchise to grow. And during that period, I got to learn how franchises work, how to scale, stuff like that. So that was by accident as well.
So the first two were kind of stumbled on by accident. Now, where does halal cart, halal guys come in? Like, is that also an accident in that franchising route?
Um, there are a series of accidents that lead to that point. So For the next 10 years, I was fortunate enough to learn, I was able to work with brands that were like tiny shops that I ended up growing them to like over a couple hundred stores. Like for example, Freshie is a healthy fast food concept in Toronto that only had 9 stores. They were my account, and I helped sell about 200 locations for them before they started asking to go public. So that's really cool. So they went public on the stock exchange. I also grew a small, tiny. Why are you laughing? Why are you smiling?
It's just so impressive to me, the scale of what you've accomplished and done. But you're like the most humble person that like I've ever met. Because like we 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 text and joke about things all the time, and like on the side, you're bringing mom and pop shops from 5, 9 locations to hundreds of locations. Like it's incredible. Like, and that's why I'm smiling, is because I'm in the presence of greatness right now.
Oh,
So
come on.
so
Well, thank you for the kind words, but I think I stay humble because so many of these blessings have always been like, I feel like it's undeserved. I always feel like people have come in to help me. Even though these accolades are impressive, like I can't do this without my team. I couldn't take this job at FranceMart unless my team was like running the business for me. I can't sell hundreds of stores if I don't have a good solid team helping the franchisees onboard and teach them how to operate stores. Like it all sounds good and it doesn't rest upon me. I guess so many people have helped me along the way. I can't not give them credit. So I get to take credit and then not give them credit, not make sure everyone else gets the credit too.
yeah, but even so, like you're a part of it. You're one of the driving forces for those changes that happen, and I'm sure you've changed their lives like tremendously. Like the mom and pop shops that only looked at a few locations, maybe not even a few locations, that now have dozens of stores or hundreds of stores. Like I can't even imagine how they would be feeling in their shoes. It's just the scale of it is pretty mind blowing. Like to still think about, because I've read it, I've seen like your bio, all that stuff, but then to still hear about it is just it still blows my mind.
Oh, well, thank you, dude. I will say that I've been fortunate to be front row seat to a lot of life changes. Like I've seen a couple of like investment bankers who pretty much got laid off and they used like their severance package to like build a chain of restaurants and change their life there, take control of their destiny. I've seen families who, for example, there's another restaurant called Elevation Burger, not a well-known brand, but they were just a mom and pop shop that were just like maniacal about eating organic beef. So they built an organic beef burger restaurant, and I helped them sell. We ended up opening close to 100 stores, most of them overseas, and then they ended up getting acquired by Fat Burger's parent company, and their lives got changed. And all they did was they just wanted to open a burger shop, and hopefully, I've been able to better their lives too. So it's quite a blessing. It's really cool to see a lot of case studies that were life changing. I got to be a part of it, me and my team. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like what do you think, out of all of the mom and pop shops and all of these business owners that you had a chance opportunity to work with, what do you think were some of the bigger lessons or takeaways that you got from helping them grow their business?
Uh, what did I learn from helping them?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think, gosh, I think a lot of it is more like keeping an open mind. And I think a lot of people's successes get killed not by external factors, but more of like the story you tell yourself. I think there's a lot of people who can't, for example, before I found FranceMart, I was getting dizzy just thinking about adding more menu items or opening another store. It was so much work. And but ever since working at FranceSmart, I was able to meet guys who own 10, 20, 30 stores, and like they don't look stressed out at all. And I'm just like, like I'm sure a lot of mom and pops are like, I can't even think about opening a second store, let alone, doing anything else. And so I think I've learned that the biggest ceiling to your potential is just the story that you tell yourself. Like I've been fortunate to not just sell franchises, but also advise these restaurant owners that, like, if you're willing to spend a little bit of money on building an incredible team, that's going to be the difference between you looking for your 10th location or you having to jump into your store and put out fires and work the grill because a high school kid decided not to make work a priority next to their boyfriend, girlfriend, and their car and their college. Uh, and there's a lot of other stories too, like, couldn't possibly, I don't have enough money to build out a store. Well, that's a story that you tell yourself. Like, you could also post it and share with your friends and family that, you're building this, you're on a mission to, better this or better that. And we've been able to raise like millions of dollars to build restaurants too. So I think it all goes back to just your story is pretty much your launch pad or your handcuffs, I guess. It's probably the biggest thing I've learned. There's a lot more lessons too, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
And that's such a great lesson because I mean, I love it because your story is ever changing. And if at any point in time you decide that you want something to change in your story, you can pretty much make it so because you're the one writing your story as you go along. So there's nothing to say that, like, just because today you can't see yourself owning 100 stores, tomorrow it doesn't mean that tomorrow you can't see it. It doesn't mean that the next day you can't see it. And so, like, those of you who are listening, you just need to understand that, like, whatever beliefs, whatever limiting beliefs that you may have placed on yourself to succeed in some way or to, like, limit your success in some way, you can always change it. You can always go into your storybook and start writing something different on the next page. And from there, I mean, Paul went from betting his friends that they can't make a better boil to then hopping into a franchise position, or not franchise position, but a position to help other franchises, to scaling and to consulting, and to now, owning a bunch of his own franchises as well. So it's just, yeah, there's so much that you can do, but your mental is something that isn't talked about as much, that you really need to pay attention to. And I think that you just addressed that really, really well, which is like to not limit yourself based on the story that you tell yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and well said as well. I guess because I've been, again, fortunate for all these accidents, right? Because if I did follow the path of like going to school, getting good grades, following the career path, I probably would have had a different mindset. But so many accidents have happened to me where I'm just like, well, actually, this has happened before. Like, I've been stupid before and it still worked out. Or I stumbled upon this and it still worked out. So I guess I'm a little bit more malleable when it comes to like being able to accept that maybe there is a better way, or never say never, or there's a margin. You should leave a margin for error and a margin for opportunity. Don't be so structured and have a plan to where new opportunities can't come in. So anyway, yeah.
I love that. There's always a margin for error, but the margin for opportunity, I love that one. I'm taking that one. I'm writing it down somewhere after
I
this.
probably stole it from someone else.
I love it because we always leave a margin for error to account for mistakes, but we never leave that margin for, like, the accidents that can change pretty much everything, your entire life, within one connection, one relationship, one event.
My second, my wife that I am with right now, the halal guys, we didn't even get to that. My restaurant, the Cajun Corner is the name of it. All accidents, dude. I needed the margin in order for it to even come into my life. So
I love that. So for someone who sees what you do, who is listening to this, who has an idea to go out and start their own food concept, like, what do you think would be a word of advice or caution for those who are listening, who think that they might or really want to start their first location as you did back then?
Yeah. Great question. There's a couple ways to go about it, I think. Um, First one is, maybe try working at a restaurant that you love. And if you're willing to, for example, like McDonald's, they don't even let any franchisees own a store until they've worked at McDonald's University for a couple months, because a lot of people have this delusion that restaurants are easy, or they think restaurants are this or that. And being able to work inside a restaurant kind of informs you before you spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars and get into debt and strain all these relationships and mess up your credit to get into. So try working at a restaurant. I'm pretty sure restaurants are dying for workers right now. Like even if you're willing to work for maybe a month, I'm sure right now restaurants would kill to just have some extra hands on deck. So this is your opportunity to learn without paying a really super expensive tuition. The second thought I had was, um, you always want to have like baby steps and small wins that build momentum and that validate your product, right? Like, you hear about these things about minimum viable product or minimum effective dose. Is what I learned from Tim Ferriss. Like you want to make small wins and you want to kind of validate what you do before you, again, spend too much time, energy, strain relationships and money. I think I hope I'm not giving it away what you're doing, but and you're doing test packages for like you're making food, you're sharing it with people that you look up to and respect, and you're getting feedback and you're getting validation. You're also getting instant customers and maybe potential franchisees and investors as well. So I feel like you killed like 10 birds with one stone by just having this little launch. And so many people, they spend tons of money on like these sexy buildings and construction and all this stuff, and they realize people aren't resonating with it. Like that sucks. And I've seen that happen so many times. So again, that also just goes back to there's so many different ways to try before you buy, I guess is a way to think about it.
Yeah, while you're going through that, I mean, it just kind of reminded that me of everything that I'm doing right now, and you kind of alluded to it too. I'll go into it really quick because this episode's about you, not about me.
No, I want to know what you do. No, you have so much to share.
But what Paul said is 100% accurate in regards to going out and trying something. I will say when I first, all right.
That thing only turns off when there's no sound. I'm not laughing enough. I'm so sorry. Go for it, man.
No. I was gonna say, like, when I first started freestyle, like as an apparel company, I was under a lot of different, I would say, delusions, like delusions of where it was gonna go and how it was gonna grow. And I had these thoughts of like, like testing the market to me back then was like, share it with a few friends. They like it, cool. I've tested the market, but that's not true.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily true. And I've learned that the hard way. But in with regards to food, the capital to start is so much higher than apparel, and so your margin of error and opportunity is there, right? And it's a lot larger in both aspects. But for me, the food things that I've been starting, exactly as Paul said, I actually first went into I worked as a prep cook for the last year. And so that was the first thing. And it was actually a good friend of mine, Andrew Menard. He actually challenged me to go out and find a prep cook job because he knew that I was getting myself into the food space. And so he said that it was crucial to me to get experience inside of a kitchen, the industry, and the regulations of what I was about to get into. And so I did that, and actually doing that and doing a great job at it, that actually brought me, and it was by no means close to my engineering salary at all, but money wasn't the reason why I went into it. It was for experience, it was to learn. And I worked as a prep cook for that meal prep company for a year, and now I'm co-owner of that company. So it's like that margin of opportunity that came from jumping in just to get experience into what I wanted to do, which is the concept that I'm also working on right now, which, as Paul said, I'm testing. My startup costs are extremely low. I paid like a friend to do a logo, which was not even $100, and then the rest is food. The rest has literally just been making batches of food and sending it out to friends, friends who are visiting, Paul when he visits Vegas. And yeah, I've just been getting the word out there and building an audience that way, where now when I do open, not even open, but my plan is to go first start in a shared kitchen to make sure my overhead is extremely low, so my margin of error and like is very I don't have to worry about it as much. If I lose everything, I lose maybe a few $100, if even that. Um, from shared kitchen to doing small pop-ups to depending on where the market or what the market says. And this time I know what the market is, but from understanding what the market is saying about it or like how the market feels, then I can decide whether or not I want to go into food truck to test it out more or get my own brick and mortar location, which then by that point, if people like it, then I have potential investors into that concept. So it's like I'm keeping my overhead extremely low and doing this a completely different way than the way that I first started freestyle, which was a bunch of learning lessons that brought me to the way that I'm able to function and do things today.
Oh, that's so cool, man. I'm so proud of you. And it's funny because you couldn't have arrived at these decisions unless you did freestyle the way you did. So it's like embracing those hard lessons as well that make these new lessons even more solidified, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for you, man. I
Thank
didn't
you.
realize that you were the co-owner of the meal prep company as well. It's
I
that sounds like an accident to me.
it was an absolute accident. It was such an accident. It, it was me going in as a prep cook and then realizing that I can actually cook in the kitchen pretty well. And like I knew my flavors, I knew my stuff. I cooked good meals, got good reviews. And then I already had business experience. I already had all of the failures, all of the lessons that I learned from freestyle that I now am basically bringing into to end goal. And it's like it's basically second nature. Like everything that I'm doing is it's customer service, customer relations, sales, marketing, all this stuff is so it's not second nature, but it's getting there. Like it's so much easier than it was the first time. And obviously I'm still learning, I'm still growing and getting better at it. But it's just like learning all the things that I did in the last few years of starting freestyle and all the I didn't lose hundreds of thousands like Paul did, but I also lost a good amount. But in that sense, it wasn't a loss either because both of us learned lessons that now we're able to implement and use to serve us down the road.
I have two thoughts if you don't mind me
Oh,
sharing.
for sure, go for it.
The first one is I love the fact that you came from apparel and then you have engineering background and then now you're getting into food. A lot of people talk about how you need to focus and there's like this and that, but I love the meshing of those three because those three meshes give you a competitive edge that people who are experts cannot match you on. And I'll give you an example. So Andy Nguyen, I'm not. Andy Nguyen has been able to fuse fashion and food at the same time. He's actually been able to make food so cool and actually in style that I don't think most restaurant owners like. Imagine, an old, gray-haired McDonald's owner trying to create something cool and something relevant. So I love the meshing of the two, and I guess there's also countless other stories, like for example, Netflix meshed the library card membership with rentals. And I just think of like all these meshes. I feel like the meshes are actually what are going to give you a better competitive advantage than being the best authentic food that you do. Like if you do like the cheapest priced food or the most authentic food, you're always going to have competitors that will beat you. You know what I mean? But if you fuse the two, it's hard for you to like you can't be beaten now. You can't even be compared to, if that makes any sense.
I No, I feel what you're saying, because people who don't have an engineering background don't have like the logistics operations as down pat as them just running a kitchen or like being doing apparel for so long, like the marketing and social media aspect of it that plays a huge part in food today. Like it didn't play a part in food a few years back, but now with social media, now with food, and now with foodie accounts and all that stuff, and Andy does it too. It's like he does it very well, which is make everything social media able.
Yeah,
So
for the gram.
yeah, for exactly for the gram, but also worth talking about. And at this
Yeah.
point, like you can have the most authentic food, but if nobody talks about it, like you don't win in the marketplace. And it's
What is it? The whole if the tree falls in the woods, did you really hear it? No, like it
something like
doesn't
that. Yes.
matter if you have the best food ever. If no one knows about it, if it's not served well, if you weren't treated kindly, then it doesn't matter, right? Good food is
Yep.
just not enough anymore. So that's why I'm
Yep.
excited about you, because you bring a very unique, outside, fresh, relevant perspective to the food. So excited to see that take off, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the kind words. I know you said you had like two thoughts before. Do you still have the second one?
Not anymore. The second thing is actually a word of advice, actually, if you don't mind taking this in. Uh, so you said that you were getting like really good at cooking in the kitchen. Um, that becomes a blessing in the beginning, and that could be a curse later on if you can't pull yourself out. So it's the whole like replace yourself so that you can do more valuable things as a company owner. You probably already know that, running freestyle and like being the CEO, but I find people get too they're too good at something and they can't let it go, and they don't trust someone to do it better than them, or they can't scale. So I don't know, I just thought I'd throw that in there, but I'm pretty sure you have it down.
No, that's really good advice. I forgot who said it. I'm sure it was either Billy or someone else who's another like incredible entrepreneur, but basically making sure systems are in place so that you are replaceable. But I've definitely felt more recently, because I'm running the kitchen, that like I've been kind of doing the little things that aren't noticed, and so like I've been trying to change that into systems. So like the small things that I'm like running around to do that people don't notice, like I'm trying to put that into our day-to-day like routine for the team to also implement.
That sounds like Billy.
I think it was Billy. We'll credit him there.
Yeah, we'll give it some. We'll toss him a bone.
Yeah, this the systems guy. But now I'm curious, right? You have had so much success in food, in franchising, uh, advice, in advising these franchisees, also owning your own franchises. What brought you into the world of digitalization of food and NFTs as a whole?
Well, digitalization of NFT of food, I don't know if I'm really doing that necessarily. If anything, I'm just investing in projects. Like for example, food fighters. I've been asked by the Bored and Hungry team to help them with their licensing growth as well, which is kind of exciting. They're about to open soon in Korea, and a couple other deals in the pipeline. So honored to work on that. But no, I actually, to be honest, NFTs is right now just a huge obsession and borderline addiction. I tend to be very behind when it comes to technology, and I guess with blockchain technology, I guess I didn't want to make that same mistake again. Like I always seem to be behind on like technologies that take off, and so I guess I this time like I need to just immerse myself into the space. Um, I'm also a big fan of laughing and memes and culture, and so that's what NFTs really have made as a viable business model. So I've been trying my hand at just creating a project, of course, which you know about with Crypto Badger Client. Thank you so much for being a supporter.
Oh, of course.
That was a really cool experiment and a really cool project to learn a lot about how creators feel. I've also been investing in NFTs as well, and have had a lot of winning profitable trades, as well as some horribly deals gone wrong. And I feel like I'm getting better as an investor, and more aware of how blockchain technology isn't just like silly JPEGs and pictures, but they actually can change how you run and do business. And it's pretty disruptive. I think right now everybody's just a little bit too distracted by the fact that they're being represented by JPEGs, but the
Yeah.
technology is pretty sick. And so um, I don't know what I'm doing in the space. I feel like I'm a little bit lost, confused, behind. I continue to hear people say that, you know, if you're in this space, you're still early. So I'm being encouraged by that. And I'm just glad to, I feel like I'm just learning right now. And I feel like it's one of those things where the opportunity will present itself at that time. And at that time, I will be ready. I got to have faith that I will be ready at that time, I guess is how it is. I feel one of my philosophies is opportunities don't go to the smart people, because actually smart people tend to overlook or dismiss it because they are disguised as bad ideas or stupid ideas. They go to people who are ready, right? If you're ready to take advantage, doesn't matter if you're smart, but are you ready to do it? So I'm just soaking it all in right now and just having fun. And if another cool opportunity to make a big dent in the Web3 space presents itself, then hopefully I'll be ready by then. But until then, just running my restaurants, having fun with that, advising restaurants as well as my main bread and butter. And NFTs are fun and a learning experience right now.
I love that. And for just for like a quick go back, what, and because a lot of people associate NFTs with JPEGs and monkeys and money laundering, right? So could you give your perspective on what NFTs are and how you use them in your project?
Yeah. I guess, you know, I feel like NFTs are, it's funny. I mean, if you collect Pokemon cards, or if you collect, you know, watches, or if you collect cars, it serves a couple, it's no different. It's just exists on the digital space. It's something that you love, it's something that you believe in, it's something that you identify yourself with. Like, you know, if you own a Rolex, you're probably most likely excited to meet another Rolex watch owner, and you guys can talk about all the weird mechanics and history and stuff like that. Same thing with NFTs is how I think about it. It's a collectible that has been able to be verified. I think the biggest issue back then, before blockchain technology, is that you can just right click and save, and there's no real community or enthusiasm that you can build around it. But now that you can, because of blockchain, you can actually build a community around it. You can authenticate who is a true believer and a true collector. You can reward your fans, just like Starbucks rewards its fans if they have a Starbucks app. You know, and by the way, Starbucks just entered Web3 yesterday with a huge announcement with NFTs, which they call stamps, which is kind of cool. But that's how I see NFT. And also NFTs are pretty much startups, where when you sell the NFT, you're pretty much raising capital to build hopefully a viable company and product. Unfortunately, you know, the easy money grab has attracted all the scammers as well. And so you're going to have to sort through a lot of garbage in order to find like true projects that are really behaving like a startup that is, you know, en route to becoming a much larger company. A couple brands that I think can make it really big is, of course, you know, I know, you know, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and also Moonbirds as well. Moonbirds is started by Kevin Rose, who is a startup investor and venture capitalist. Doodles just got like massive amounts of funding as well, because these VCs are starting to see that, you know, the people behind it and the product is viable long term. So yeah, I mean, you can see NFTs in so many different ways. I mean, it's collectible, it's also a startup company, and all different things at once. That's why it's a little bit hard to define it, but that's how I see it.
I like that. I actually like that you didn't really define it, because because honestly, it honestly can't really be defined just yet. It, like the actual definition of an NFT is not really, doesn't really encompass what they are and what they do, right? And like, I love that you brought up the Starbucks thing, because Starbucks, I'm a huge fan of Starbucks. I love their rewards program. I have a ton of stars. But it when they first talked about it, before they even released it the other day, yesterday, they kept hinting at digitalizing their rewards platform. And for those of you out there who still might think that NFTs are a scam, I want you to kind of look at what Starbucks is doing. They're not really categorizing their rewards program as an NFT, but they're using the blockchain technology. They're using NFT technology to create their rewards program, because once your ID is hashed into the blockchain, you can't change it, right? So your rewards, like for example, your rewards card is tied to you and nobody else. And then every time you scan your rewards code, you get coins or you get some sort of digital currency that goes to it. And this is all powered through blockchain technology rather than through an app that is managed through a massive database that Starbucks internal people are managing, right? And so now it's going to be on the blockchain, which, you know, we could go into an entire podcast episode on.
You're such a nerd. You explained it a lot more like engineering background level, which is, I mean, which is great, because I think a lot of people, yeah, they again, they're too distracted with the JPEG, right? But
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, like later on, eventually, you can buy a house with this digital contracts, and then after the fact, you just realize, oh, that was an NFT.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it has to be an afterthought. It can't be like too distracting, like, you know what I mean? So I love that explanation as well. Good job, dude. I'm gonna take that.
Thank you. You should. I love using Starbucks as an example because it's one of the easiest ones. Like, they're doing it already. They're not framing it as like this NFT project. They're just framing it as like they're digitalizing their system, which is
Correct.
incredible, because for all of you who are listening who might be skeptical, might not be, it's a space to pay attention to. Now, you don't have to go crazy, go invest, go buy a bunch of JPEGs. You don't. But it's important to understand the technology. No, it's important to, I've also been burned a few times, but it's important to look at the technology and kind of like what's going to happen, so that you could either understand and be ready for it when it comes, or utilize it yourself in whatever you're working on right now. So it's just another margin of opportunity by understanding it, to be honest.
For sure, for sure. Understanding it, and also just being present and just immersing yourself in the space. I'm actually writing a newsletter. No, I actually published it yesterday. I published it yesterday, but I just, you know, like you and I just agreed, it's hard to describe it, because some people see the NFTs as an ability to support up and coming artists, right? Artists who have never been able to sell their art, and artists who have never been able to actually be able to feed their families. They thought like digital illustrations were only like a hobby, but this can actually be their livelihood, right? And so that's one way to support NFTs. Another way to support NFTs is, gosh, where was I going with this thought? But anyway, also being able to be investing, like being able to make money by trading NFTs. Like, people are shaming or thinking that, you know, are looked down upon when they're making profits by trading NFTs, but it's no different than some people treat it like the stock market, right? And there are pieces of art that I'm keeping, I hope, forever, and I love them. Like, for especially my Pepe the Frog ones. I'm pretty sure you see.
The meme ones.
Yeah. There's also NFTs that I've traded because it was an opportunity to be profitable and learn how to invest, and I just made some 2 winning trades on there, and not because I'm an expert, but because I was just immersed in the space. I just was present in the space, and I was able to benefit from that too. But I mean, there's actually probably another podcast episode that you and I can chat about, where I have some cool ideas on how blockchain can be used to run restaurants more efficiently. But I haven't solidified my thoughts. But blockchain can disrupt that too. And as you know, like, restaurants need disrupting big time.
Oh
So
yeah, the industry needs some work, and part of the reason why I'm going into it with the Taiwanese concept is to expose the other Taiwanese restaurants out there that are delicious, amazing, but they have no exposure, so nobody knows about them. And that's part of the reason why I want to build my concept out. But talking about NFTs, we definitely need to have like me, you, like Andy and Calvin or something. So it's like restaurant, food, tech, and like super data, super tech.
you put that together, I'll jump on and I'll chat. Like it's so cool just to chat about, and there's so many cool insights that pop out of nowhere with the dynamic, right? So anyway,
Yeah, I love one, I love bouncing ideas around, but two, I think if we make that happen and as we go through it, we'll be able to come up with like a bunch of new ideas that none of us thought about, and now we have to kind of sit on, which would be that would be a lot of fun. It's like another opportunity depending on where we're at.
assuming you want me back, yes.
But we we could honestly go on like an entire episode on NFTs itself, right? But for this one, we're gonna be focusing on you and what you're doing and what you're focused on. But for what's I'm curious to know what's next for you, because you already have massive success in owning, advising, and food, and also having an NFT project, having a podcast, having a newsletter, which I still need to read, but having all of these having all these things, I want to hear what's next for you.
Yeah. Half of my answer will be I actually don't know. I'm again, it's that margin of error, margin of opportunity thing. As I get older, I'm creating more margin because I'm learning more that I don't know everything, and I feel like the best is yet to come. And as far as my purpose in life, uh, I think I'm not sure if I've like fully grasped or understood my purpose yet. So I'm gonna leave a big part of my life open for that, and I've engineered my life to where I can be open for that. And as my kids get older too, I do want to leave some flexibility so that I can be there for my kids' baseball games. And like you know that I recently came back from a 2-month trip. Like some people were wondering if I'll ever come back. I guess I'm just leaving margins open. So if I do any work, I want to make sure I can do it remotely, and I do want to leave margin open to where I don't miss any of my kids and my family's most important moments. I'm also, my parents are much older now too. My mom is 77, my dad's like 82, and thank God they're still with me, and thank God they're still super healthy. I don't know if you've read this article. Have you heard of Tim Urban?
That name sounds
Okay.
familiar. What?
So it's funny. Billy and I were raving about it not long ago, but I read this article called "The Long Tail," or yeah, "The Long Tail" by Tim Urban. You have to read this. This is one of the most life-changing articles I've ever read. But pretty much it makes you realize you truly don't have that much time left with the loved ones you have. Like for example, I guess he was putting up a visual of like how many Super Bowls are left. Like an average person lives up to 80 years old, right? So there's 80 Super Bowl things on the visual, and it says how many hours, how much time do you have? I can't explain it. You have to read it. But in a nutshell, you really don't. If I only see my parents like once a week and I only see them for about 2 hours, if I compile all that up, like I might only really truly only have maybe one more month left with them, and that kind of shocks me and kind of brings me to tears. But yeah, definitely read that article. It just makes you realize like all the things you do, like it makes you really think hard about whether the things you're doing right now are truly important or not. So definitely recommend you read that. Anyway, that's what's next for me. I just want to leave it open. And the other half is, I would love to make a big dent in the Web3 space. I don't know how yet. But I've engineered, my restaurants to run without me. My consulting is pretty fun, but it allows me to do it pretty remotely. And so I have a lot of flexibility, which matters more to me than the money. So just again, being ready for what's next. I don't know. That's why I'm tinkering in so many different things,
Yeah.
but and that's what makes it fun too. But yeah, that's what's happening.
I love that. I love that for you, that you're just tinkering around and having fun. Like at the end of the day, like I think people overlook the having fun part, and it's just work, 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 work. As much as I'm working, I'm having so much fun with everything that I do along the way. And I think we share that sort of like principle of being able to have fun. I don't have that flexibility yet, but I'm getting there.
Which it's on route though.
It is en route. But I love that. And I love the point that you made about um obviously I still need to read the article, but Jesse Itzler also says something like very similar, where he talks a lot about like when if you only visit your parents twice a year and they're 60 years old, like average life expectancy times basically the amount of years between where they're at now and where the life expectancy is times two, like that's the amount of times left that you'll see your parents for, which is it's a different way to look at it, but it's the same concept of like how many times you have left to see your parents, or how many hours you have left to spend time with your parents. So it's like it definitely opens my perspective on like what I'm doing, and like but it also pushes me to go that much harder to make it so that I can bring them out here, so they don't have to keep working over in New York. I can bring them out to Vegas, and like they don't have to worry about anything, and I'll have the flexibility to like see them much more often than I do now.
Oh, that's amazing, man. The first step is like awareness, right? Like that brought the awareness to it. Like, and that's actually the reason why I made a commitment. Besides my travel, I see them every week, like without fail. And my mom recently, she fell, and I've been taking her to doctor's appointments and getting her checked out, take her to the grocery store. Like these are the moments. This is why I work so hard. So I mean, it makes me happy to hear that, dude. And I didn't realize, I forgot you were originally from New York.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Do you like it here better in Vegas, or like
I
big versus more suburban or entertainment this capital, right?
I actually lived a little bit outside of the city, even back in New York. So I was in the suburbs there too. Um, the one thing I do miss is like my family and my friends, but um, I know that what I'm doing now and like the amount of work that I'm putting in now will be worth it in the long run, because I'll be able to either always fly back and forth to see them, or I can bring them out to to move somewhere closer to here.
Oh, that's cool, man. This
But
it's why we work so hard, right? It's why we work so hard.
yeah.
Not not always the Lambos, dude.
No, it's not. It's I think dude, social media has, I think, clouded some judgment in what entrepreneurship is about. And I think like at the end of the day, it really is about working towards the quality of life that you want for yourself and your family, and not like, I mean, the material things are going to be nice, like to be able to afford it, but like at the end of the day, it's all of the stuff that you can't buy with money that's going to matter.
That's right. And I want to just clarify. I have a lot of friends, like I think our friend Andy Zamora. I mean, he has an incredible car, but before he even did that, he also takes care of his family. He does business with his sister. I feel like he has all the amazing things that matter before he even gets to like the physical things. So I mean, he has his priorities on straight. So love him as well. Anyway, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I think many of our friends have the ability to buy multiple cars of multiple supercars whenever they wanted to, but but
We're in
definitely
good
like,
company.
yeah, I even dude, when I saw you, I mean, I didn't even realize you were gone for 2 months. It just felt like you were on that trip forever. But like hashtag Paul Trans adventures or travels, it was like
Travel.
it was seeing that was inspiring to me because like you could have fancy cars, you could have a fancy house, you could have all these things, but to be able to spend like quality time with family and have the flexibility to just put everything down and travel for 2 months, it's inspiring. It's a very different lifestyle than what most successful entrepreneurs like to put on social media. And I think it gives a much different perspective too. It's like a much more like, I think it's, I mean, I can't think of any other word than wholesome right now, but it's it's like something that I admire a lot about you and the way that you work. Is like you're very humble. You don't really like, it's not all about the flexing, even though you have the success to back it up if you did. And then you just go and spend time with your family and bring them around travels and eat amazing food that I'm really jealous of from looking at your Instagram feed.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm just grateful. There's so many things as to why I think I am the way I am, but I has a lot to do with my parents, has a lot to do with the fact that so many things, even if I could brag, every time I brag about something, I'm just like, oh, but my friends or my family helped me get there too. Like I always, I guess I'm just, I think one of my biggest things I'm proud of is like I can remember who got me there, which is even cooler than doing it myself because it's not fun succeeding on your own anyway, right?
Nah,
So
it's pretty boring.
yeah, it's pretty boring at the top, I think. So I'm not saying I'm at the top, but I'm just saying it's just so much fun doing things together. I'd say the most successful things that I've ever done have always been done with a team. For example, my Halal Guys team. I mean, here the brag is we own 9 stores. We do about 15 million a year in sales. But the fun part is that I get to do it with some incredible people that allow me to do what I do. I have never had to step inside my restaurants to put out a fire because our team is just so cool and um, stuff like that. So yeah, it's all about enjoying it with others too. So I mean, and I want to tell you, like, you know, when you and I joke around on text, like this is how I do business with all my friends and all my clients. Like they have to be okay with like stupid memes and bad. Like again, like I'm at a stage now where I'm proud that I can just have fun with my clients and have fun with my partners too. So anyway, that's probably a bigger definition of success than the Lambo, to be honest. If someone sends me a Pepe the Frog NFT, like I love you forever, versus like the watch. I swear to you. Totally went off in a tangent, but that's the deal.
I think it's important to showcase that though, that there is that different perspective on what success is. Because I think you're living it, right? And so I think a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs or people who are early in the space don't have as much people to look up to as you. And I think that's why I really want to get your message out there more, is because I think people need role models like you to look up to when they're pursuing this path of entrepreneurship. Because when you see someone like yourself, it's just like, wow, like maybe I don't need the Lambo and the private jet and the to just flex all day, like, because at the end of the day, like, would you say that you're happy with everything that's going on in your life right now?
I mean, it's not without its struggles and problems. I mean, you know, I think my kids are teenagers, so we're having family
Uh,
dynamics there.
Never mind. I take it back.
No, but these aren't unique to any, like just me. Like this is everyone goes through that, right? And that's the problem with social media too. Like you only see the highlight reels. You don't see all the behind the scenes stuff. But you couldn't tell I had like a shitty day a few days ago. And also, I will also want to make sure that I'm grateful that I've achieved some successes, and I'm grateful that those successes can be an inspiration to folks here on this platform. But I also want to let people know, because hopefully it encourages them too. Like, I've had my fair share um, of failures as well. I mean, like true failures. Like, for example, I used to have 11 Hello Guys stores, lost two of them during the pandemic, made some really bad decisions that could have saved it during the pandemic, but did not. And there's a lot of lessons to be taught there. I've also had two dessert shops that also have closed down as well. And so it's not all like, it's not all good. And hopefully that lets other people know that it's not just all like falls on a pedestal with no failures or mistakes. There's plenty of dirty laundry and bad stuff that I'm happy to, again, that's probably another podcast episode on its own, because there's so much lessons from that too, probably more lessons than successes, right? So hopefully that encourages folks that, failure comes with the territory.
And what do you think? We'll definitely, I'll invite you back on to talk all about all of your failures. But what do you?
It's a 10-part series.
Part two can be failures, part three NFTs, and then we'll go from there. But what do you think? Um, what were your thought processes when you experienced these quote unquote failures, and what actions did you take to kind of make sure that it didn't hinder you from your like overall goal?
Yeah, that's a really, 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 really good question. Um, well, when all these happened, I was pretty heartbroken. I my ego and my pride also got really messed up pretty bad. But more importantly, I just felt bad that, there were times where I put my family in a compromising situation. I think overexcitement and FOMO and a lot of bad investing psychology, put, strained family finances. It really hurt family dynamics for quite a bit. The dessert shops, I did raise money with some of my closest friends and family too. So that was a really difficult situation, where I feel like a lot of friendships were strained because of it. I'm still, I'm not sure if I fully healed from that. I still feel horrible about it, and I still feel a lot of guilt and shame through it. And so that's a work in progress. But as far as, keeping on, I think I think being honest about the situation and communicating regularly with like my stakeholders really helped with, um, and just being honest right from the start was really helpful, because I was able to show books and finances, and and also share other things that help people understand that this uh, these enterprises just weren't doing well, for no other reason, like no embezzlement was going on. It was just the course of business, and also just, um, I guess just communicating with them regularly has been probably my biggest saver, because that's when no news happens, like people's minds go crazy and they go everywhere, and it's never usually positive. So I think that helped keep me going. It did make me doubt, like, dude, am I even qualified to run like the Halal Guys? Or am I even qualified to be an entrepreneur? Like, will Derek think differently of me? Um, but I think all the mindset, your mental health is so important. And I feel like I built such a good mental health, that it's helped me during the bad times. Just like working out helps you during like cheat day, or when you're eating like and I feel like mental health is the same, because I've been reading so many books and because I've had such good mentors, good support system. It's helped offset like my mental craziness when shit went down. So that's helped absorb cheat day. So again, it really, I can't stress enough that mental health is a real thing. You also do need to surround yourself with the right people. It's not just a cliche, not just a sexy quote that you hear people say. It is the truth. And for me, I'm a believer. I'm Christian, and I feel like God has I've been praying quite a bit, and I feel like God's kind of pretty much helped me pull out of those situations as well. Help me cope with like all the questions and all the anger and all the doubts. And so didn't mean to destroy the mood here, but I think this is a pretty important part of who I am as well. But hope that answers your question.
That it more than answers it. I'm actually really glad that you did bring it up, because it highlights, not highlights, but it gives another perspective on your life and your journey and how you felt through the tougher times along the way. But now I'm curious, because we kind of talked about it. For your mental health, what do you think has been the, what do you do to build up that mental health that helps you during those times where things might be a little bit more rough?
Yeah, great question as well. I think a consistent routine every morning has been really helpful. Just like exercising every day. So for me, uh, apparently people ask about my morning routine quite a bit. And so there is one routine that I'm really proud to have honored for maybe like 10 years now. But it's this acronym called Pattern, spelled horribly wrong, PATRN. P stands for prayer. I do want to start my day praying and being grateful, and praying for things that I hope go well. I'm praying for those. I'm trying to focus on maybe praying for other people versus the laundry list of things I want done for me. So I'm trying to focus on that before I ask for things I want. So I pray. The next thing is A, which is affirmations. I try to at least put one statement out there into the universe that I'd like to have in the present tense. Like, for example, today I'm a very attentive husband, or today I am an incredible, manager, or I'm a very compassionate manager, stuff like that. And the T stands for thankfulness. I have a gratitude journal that I'm proud of. I have three things. I write three things that I'm grateful for every single day. And I don't just say one sentence, I expand on it. And I've been doing that for 10 years. Like, I've never ran out of things I'm grateful for, which is really cool. That's helped me during the darkest times where I don't feel like enough, or don't feel grateful enough. The R stands for reading. I usually try to read one chapter or at least 10 minutes of something, whether it be like an insightful article or a book that I'm reading. Right now I'm reading this book called The Go-Giver, and really cool book. Talks about being able to be successful by incorporating just giving value to others. And the last one is N. N stands for notes, because throughout the day, I have a lot of cool inspiration or ideas, but I don't have enough time to like think about them or expand on them. So I just turn on my app. I write in my day one journal. I just write like whatever the idea was, and I just process it the next morning. That's the part of the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are the things I do. As far as mental health, I I laugh. I spend time with my kids. I create memes for fun. That's really fun. That's helping my mental health. And Yeah, that's usually what I do.
You actually shared a tweet earlier today, I think, and it was something about you like just smiling, even though it, like, you might not feel it, like just by doing the action of smiling, it releases dopamines or something.
Yeah. So your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. So if you fake it till you make it in this aspect, like if you do smile, you still get the benefits of that dopamine rush and
God, yeah.
end up backing yourself into it. So that's cool.
Yeah, I remember reading that somewhere, and your tweet just reminded me of it. And it's just like, even in your darkest times, you just smile. You'll feel better about it. And pattern is such a simple PATRN, 5-step process.
Yeah.
It's such a simple 5-step process, but I think what's really important, and it's something that I've experienced recently too, is that you're consistent with it. Like the consistency part of it is what helps build the mental strength. And I could just say from like my own experience, whenever I break my morning routine, even for a day or two, the next few days I'm just like sluggish. Like, I don't feel as good, as I don't have as much energy. So it's like having a morning routine isn't something for you to be like, I have a morning routine, I'll do it every so often. It's having a morning routine and making sure that it gets done every single morning without fail. And that's how you'll start to build mental strength and mental health to serve you in those times where you feel like you're in a hole.
Yeah, for sure. On the days I don't do it, or I don't do it early enough, like my day goes to shits. And I also want to let people know that it feels mundane. It feels like, why the fuck am I still doing this? But it's one of those things that like you'll be glad you had it. It's kind of like insurance. Like you don't notice it. You kind of actually hate it, but then like it'll save you later. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But anyway, but yeah, that's the routine.
100% does. You don't know what it does for you until you stop. And then once you stop, it hurts.
That's right.
And other than that, make sure to incorporate lots of memes and jokes throughout your day.
I can't tell you how true that is. I love laughing, dude. My jokes are the funniest. Jokes are the coolest things in my day. So you want to make me happy, or you want to do business with me, send me a stupid. Make sure it's really stupid, and I'll consider. I'll respond.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. If I mean we're gonna get into it in just a second. Where people can find you and follow you for your fun memes and jokes. But before we get into that, like what would you say to those who are listening as a closing message to wrap this episode up?
Gosh, man, you had the tough questions, dude. Um, I guess my parting words, if this is like the parting words, is be really be really aware that your success, your failure, your happiness, everything you do is a story. And just like you said, like a storybook, you can you can change the story on the next page. Or for those computer nerds, you can change the software, like the update. You can rewrite the software, overwrite the software. I don't know, whatever you nerds like to do. but, but but I think it all goes back to the fact that if what I'm saying is true, if you're being open-minded to the fact that it's true that everything is a story, that means that you can change your story. And I guess if you're okay with two parting words, the next word is, I think because you and I was so focused on telling you how everything was just an accident early on, that um, don't be so discouraged that you don't have the resources, or you don't have the experience or the knowledge, um, and just be encouraged by the fact that, um, if you're open and if you're flexible, um, there's other ways to get where you're going, and don't force your future, don't rush your future, just immerse, be present, learn from people, and um, regardless, I think it'll lead you at least closer to what you want to do. Um, and I can give you countless stories, at least from my experience, how that has played out. There's so many things that I've learned that I'm like, hell, like, well, this is useless knowledge, but it comes back to serve me 5 years later, or some random instance. So just be present, and just learn it all, and just be grateful for it all. And yeah, those are my words.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know I said it was for the listeners, but I'm taking both of those points with me as well. That was like
Good, take it.
that's more of like a selfish question at this point because that was for me. But thank you for sharing. And you've blessed us with two parting messages, which is double just one message, two times the value. But
That is the math.
oh God, we're gonna have to talk again on like all of the other topics that we were talking about or alluding to earlier, but because this is all we have time for today, where can people go and find you so they can follow the memes, the updates, the travels, the adventures?
Well, thank you again for having me, man. What I said earlier, I really meant it. I mean, the fact that, after a long day of work, I mean, and long day of like all that you do, you still dedicate energy to this. I don't want to understate the fact that this is truly like a generous thing that you're doing. You could easily just call me and I can just give you all the advice, but you had to make sure the lighting was right, made sure the audio and visuals were working, so that you can post it and share it with others, so that in the hopes that they get better too. So not understated. You need to know how awesome that is. As far as finding me, right now I'm in the middle of rebranding and just figuring out how best to move forward. But I'd say the consistent posting and consistent interaction has been Instagram and Twitter. I'm having a lot of fun with those platforms, more so on Twitter lately, but they're both under the same username, Paul T. Tran. And I've also just started writing a newsletter. Don't feel bad that you haven't read it. I truly just started last week. And I'm just writing thoughts that I had. There's no agenda for it yet. I just love writing. I feel like it's like a creative outlet and it's therapy for me. So I've just been writing random things. So I'd be curious to know what you think of the issues. But feel free to check that out. It's on unfocused.news. And you'll be able to read some articles and subscribe there. Um, as far as business opportunities, I mean, I'm not actively looking. I mean, if I could be of service to anyone looking to enter the food business, or just entrepreneurship in general, or I also love talking about sales as well. Even though franchising is what I'm known for, a lot of my success has been selling franchises. So if anyone's interested, I'm happy to share sales strategies and stuff that I've learned, especially coming from an introvert like me. So feel free to reach out. Happy to talk about all that stuff. And Derek, if you feel like I could be valuable for future segments, or maybe a group of people just chatting and talking a lot of shit, just let me know. Happy to make time for you, man.
Well, you already know we're doing a 10-part segment for this podcast. This is only part 1 of 10, at least 10.
All right, I'm ready, man. I'm ready for
But
you.
if you guys are listening and you haven't followed him yet, make sure you do, because it's just, I mean, all of what he said on this show today, and there's just so much more to him and his life that he posts on a daily basis, memes and jokes as well, but it always serves to like brighten my day whenever I see him tweeting funny shit all over the place. But that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much again for sharing your story and your knowledge with everyone, and being and spending time with me tonight and on this episode. And for everyone who's listening, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. That's all we have time for today, and we will catch you in the next episode. Peace.
Thank you, Derek. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.